My name is Hunter Davis, and I'm the youth director here at Stillwater Bible Church. And today we're going to do a quick training over the code of conduct and kind of the policy and procedures of what you, as a volunteer who would like to work with minors, must learn, know, and understand before you start working with them. We're going to go over several things today. One will be our code of conduct, or kind of our expectations for you guys. Another one will be our 3 R's that we call them. And then a third one will be our 360 training. When we get done with this, you should be able to understand, know, and explain how you should be acting around minors when you're at SBC. Let's get into it. First, we're going to look at our code of conduct and kind of some of the things that we expect from you guys to not do, or some of the things that we say are appropriate or non-appropriate. Now, all of you should have already filled out the Stillwater Bible application. If you've done this, you've actually already signed the code of conduct. You've already looked at it. You've already seen it, but we're still going to go over it here. Our program here at Stillwater Bible is not a place for physical relationships. We understand that some of you are married and you have spouses, and we get that, and that's okay. But this is not a place for any kind of physical relationship with any minors, between you and a minor, or anything like that. So obviously there's going to be code of conduct rules such as no kissing, no sharing of any kind of private areas when we're at camp, which is not for all of you, but when we're at camp, it's things like no, getting in the same bed with a camper. Obviously, no hitting, kicking, slapping, or punching, things like that. No tickling or having tickle fights. It's just not a place for intimate relationship like that. And so we want to make sure that you're aware of all that. No physically demeaning humor. No walking about the cabins if you are at camp. No walking about in the cabins without private areas being covered. That means no changing in the cabins, things like that. If you're at church and you're on like Wednesday nights, we want to make sure that we're always in a public area, in a public setting. There shouldn't be any time when you go into a private area one-on-one with a minor at all, which we'll talk more about later. We also want to make sure that we always use appropriate verbal communication. What this means is no lying, no gossiping, no calling names, even if you're joking with a camper or a kid or a minor. Just, we don't want to call him names or talk about another person's physical body. No using profane language or slang terms. No discussion of sexual nature or anything like that. So just make sure you understand that. Make sure that that's for everyone, for all minors, for all staff, for everybody here. And then for staff and volunteers, we also want you to remember that no youth is to be taken off by themselves. No youth or no minor should be taken off by themselves. No youth or minor should be given an individual gift or a personal gift of any kind. We shouldn't show favoritism to any of the youth or the minors. And again, no one-on-one counseling and private conversations that are in private areas. Again, those can be done in a public setting, but no private. That means seen, not necessarily heard. So we also want you and me and all the staff and volunteers to hold each other accountable to these things. Make sure you also realize that the minors have rights as well. The minors have the right to privacy when in private areas. So at SBC, the bathroom is a private area. They have the right to privacy when they're in that area. They have the right to tell anyone, if they feel uneasy in any situation at all. They have the right to be treated with respect and to be taken seriously, no matter what they say. So let's remember that as volunteers and as staff, that they have those rights as minors. Now remember, we have 3 categories that we really talk about when we're talking about this code of conduct, just to kind of break it down for you guys so you can understand it a little bit better. We do touch, talk, and territory. So when we're talking about appropriate and not appropriate touch, here's what we say. We say appropriate touch can be handshakes or high fives, fist bumps, side or short congratulatory hugs, or things like that with younger kids. And when we define younger kids, it is for those who are not in youth group, so those under the youth group age, which would be anybody in 5th grade and up is youth. So anybody younger than that, it can be appropriate to walk hand in hand with a child. It can be appropriate if they come and sit on your lap. Those 2 things can be okay for the very younger kids. So just be aware of that. Not appropriate he's walking hand in hand or sitting on laps once they get to that age group where they hit the youth group, the 5th grade. Also realize that any back rubs or arm tickles, massages, anything like that go against our code of conduct. Any touching of private parts, no exceptions. Touching a child out of anger or disgust, that is goes against our code of conduct. Do your best to avoid and initiate those frontal hugs as well if you can. Get it when you can't always avoid that, but make sure you try. Sexual embraces, leg or lap sitting, again, kissing, intimate wrestling, tickling, those are all go against our code of conduct. So that's a touch. That seems pretty self-explanatory. Hopefully it is for you. Hopefully that makes sense to you and you don't have any questions about any of that. Talk. When we go on to talk, we want to give verbal praise for achievement and behavior, verbal encouragement, biblically based teaching, and normal, healthy conversation. It's all pretty normal. That's what we want. That's appropriate. What's not appropriate? Complimenting or questioning somebody's physique or physical body or body development, sexual jokes, dirty talking, swearing, cussing, verbal harassment or verbal abuse, individual secrets, special gifts or secrets. Okay, with minors, those are a no-go. Any sexual coaching and conversation, okay, all that stuff that goes against our code of conduct. That is not appropriate talk. And then as far as territory goes, if you remember the rule of 3, you'll be pretty safe on this one. Public one-on-one interactions are appropriate. Again, that's public one-on-one interactions, seen but not necessarily heard. And group or public environments are obviously healthy and appropriate. Not appropriate, private one-on-one interactions. So if you're privately taking a minor to a private area, that is not okay. Don't take a minor into a room and shut the door behind you. Even though there's a window in there, we don't want that happening. Okay, so just be aware of those. And then as far as camp goes as well, no sitting or laying on a bed with a camper, obviously. That would go against the territory side of it. So make sure you understand our code of conduct. What is appropriate, what is not appropriate, what you're able to do, what you're not able to do. Make sure you understand that fully. Make sure you're able to explain it to parents, to me, to a minor, to anybody. Make sure you're able to give a brief explanation of, hey, this is what's okay, this is what is not okay, because we want you to be on the lookout for everybody else and be looking and be aware of if anyone or any person is going against the code of conduct, and we want you to report that immediately to one of the staff, one of the directors, whether it be Brandy Barnes, Hunter Davis, which is myself, Brian James, or Blake Brown, or any of the other staff or directors. You can report it directly to them. We want you to be aware, be looking, and be ready to report so we can have the safest environment we can. Our goal here at Stillwater Bible is to have a safe, fun, biblical time of learning God's Word. All that begins with safety. If the kids aren't safe, then we're not even going to be able to have a ministry. So make sure you're aware of this and you can explain it. The next thing I want you guys to be aware of and be able to explain is the 3 R's. I have them up here on the board. It's recognize, resist, and report. Okay, we want all the campers to understand this, and we want all of you guys to understand this. We want you to recognize what goes against our code of conduct, whether it's modesty, private one-on-ones, good touch, bad touch, good talk, bad talk, bullying, protecting your space. Like, we want you guys to understand those things. Those will all go back to the code of conduct. So understand what those are. Understand the code of conduct to see it. Okay, then resist it if it goes against. So we want all the campers and or minors, depending on what programming we're doing, to resist if anyone goes against the code of conduct or if anyone's making them feel uncomfortable. Be okay with saying no. And we want the kids to be okay with saying no if something makes them feel unsafe. Okay? Once they say no, we want them to go find a safe adult and tell them what's going on. Finally, report. This is important for not only for you guys, but for the campers as well, or minors as well, depending on what program they're in. Okay, if they find themselves in an uncomfortable situation or see someone involved in one, please immediately report that incident by telling a safe adult. Okay, any safe adult, they can tell that. They can drop a note in the safe box. If it's here at SBC, we have a few safe boxes, so they can just drop a note in that anonymously if they need to. They can call 1-800-4-A-CHILD if they want to report it that way. You guys can report as well. We want you to report. We want you to report anything that you see that goes against the code of conduct to one of the camp staff or camp or church staff, either one, depending again on the programming. But we want you to report it to one of them, multiples of them. You can also report it again, directly to 1-800-4-A-CHILD. That's 1-800-4, the number 4, and then A-CHILD. You can report it directly there as well. We want you to report it. In fact, in Oklahoma, you have to report it. Okay, so make sure you're reporting things that are illegal, reporting anything that you see that you think is questionable. Just make sure you report. When in doubt, report. But also know the 3 R's. Recognize, resist, report. And make sure you know that the campers or minors in your group, they know this too, and they should be looking out for it and doing it as well. Again, we want to create a culture that is on the prowl and looking for anything that goes against our code of conduct. Because again, we want this to be the safest place that it can be. Okay, the final bit of training for now is going to be the 360 supervision training. This is training that we give everyone who's working with minors because we want them to understand how to have a 3-question process to eliminate or find a person who's grooming. Okay, and the whole goal of this is to establish like a blanket of monitorization so that everyone is aware and ready to find anyone who is grooming. Any molesters or anything like that are grooming or starting the grooming process or wanting to start that grooming process, we want to catch that immediately before anything happens or any actions occur. Okay, the 360-degree supervision theories, it's a system of rules and principles to monitor the interaction of individuals in accordance with our organization's code of conduct. So SBC's code of conduct on the basis of 3 indicators. Again, I said it's 3. They're easy to remember. It's who, where, and what. Who, where, and what, if you remember those 3 things. Okay, also in this process, we have a few steps. Step 1 is understanding if they're a primary or secondary supervision. Okay, while serving as a volunteer or an employee here at Stillwater Bible or Camp 2 Foss, you'll be asked to supervise in one of 2 capacities at all times, either a primary or secondary supervisor. Primary supervisor is anyone who assumes a role with direct supervision or control over an individual or groups of minors. Okay. Secondary supervision, that's any staff or volunteer or personnel on property who are not in direct supervision or control of any individual group of minors. So if you're in charge of minors, you're primary. If you're not in charge of minors, you're primary, you're secondary. And so recognize who's a primary, who's a secondary. That helps you indicate on the first 2 as well. When we're going through this, we want you to understand these 3 reads: who, where, and what. Who are they? Where are they? What are they doing? When we understand these 3, we can then say, okay, is this a full compliance? Is this against our code of conduct, or is this illegal? And we can take action based on one of those 3 steps. Okay, no matter which role you're in, I want you guys, as those who are volunteers and or staff, to be always on the lookout for these 3 things. Okay, the first one is the who. Okay, the who. Who are they? What is their role? Are they a leader? Okay, are they a parent? Who are they? And are they in the role of what they're doing? Is it a leader with a youth? Is it 2 youths? Is it a minor, 2 minors all together? Is it a visitor on property that you've never met? Is this person? Who are these people? And so when we recognize this, we can immediately say, is that inside of our code of conduct? So if you see a leader, a youth leader, one of my youth leaders with a couple of youth kids, okay, that is within the code of conduct. That's all go. That's full compliance, right? If you see a parent dropping off a child at church, I mean, that's obviously full compliance there. Okay? If you see a stranger, okay, with a kid, we need to go talk to that person. When you see who that person is, we need to get more information. You need to alert me or Brandy or Blake, one of those other directors. You need to alert them because I don't know who this guy is. Okay, I don't know who this guy is, and I know who this youth is, but I don't know who this guy or girl is. Okay, then where are they? So we could say, hey, there's a youth leader here and a minor. That's perfect. That's good. They are within the code of conduct. Okay, and let's say they're in the auditorium and they're playing a game. Okay, that's within the code of conduct. They're in a public one-on-one area and it's a public interaction, and that's all good. But then we could say, well, what if that youth leader is taking that minor into the bathroom, well, then that goes against our code of conduct. Or what if they're taking them outside and they're taking them out behind the lagoon? Okay, well, that goes against our code of conduct. We're going to need to be made aware of that immediately. That needs to be stopped. Okay, what if you even see one youth or a minor of some kind and a leader walk into a room and shut the door behind them? Well, we need to go open that door. We need to talk to them when you see what's going on there. That needs to be reported to a director just to see what's going on there. That goes against our code of conduct. So that's the where. Say the who are they? And the who could be perfectly right and fine and within the code of conduct, but the where's not. So you need to be aware first of your who read, okay? And then next of your where read. Where are they? Who are they? Where are they? Who are they? Where are they? And then finally, what are they doing? The who and the where could be perfectly right, but the what could still be wrong. Okay? And as we look at this, you could say, well, the who and the where are fine. They're in a public area. It's two minors, and they're in a public area. Well, what are they doing? Well, they could be doing something illegal. They could be touching each other in a way that's not right, that goes against their code of conduct, or that is illegal, or both, right? And so when you read this and you say, hey, these two minors are fine in a public area, but they're doing something wrong, then obviously that should be reported immediately. That should be stopped immediately. This youth leader and this minor are in a public setting, one-on-one, but they're doing something wrong. Okay, that is something that needs to be reported. It goes against our code of conduct. Or they could be doing something illegal, in which case we need to call the authorities immediately and stop it immediately. So remember to report these things. Basically, if you remember this, who, where, and what, and you're always reading these things, and all of us are reading these things, it's going to make Stillwater Bible activities, Stillwater Bible programming, Stillwater Bible camps and Camp Tufos a lot safer place. So let's make sure that we're making these reads every night, every day. Whenever we're in a program at SBC, let's make these reads. Who, where, and what. We want to establish a blanket of monitoring for all of that Stillwater Bible. Yes, it's the safest place that it can be. Okay, so remember those things. Does it go against our code of conduct? Is it in full compliance? Is it illegal? Make sure you read all these things every night when we're out here programming with youth. Okay, we have just a couple more things, and then we're going to be done with this segment of training. First, we want to go over discipline. Okay, how do we handle discipline? Well, discipline, first off, is never physical at Stillwater Bible Church. Okay, you are not the child's parent, and so you are not able to physically discipline any child. Here's the protocol for what we go through with discipline. What does it look like? Well, here it is. A kid is disobeying or they are disrespecting you. First off, we want to make sure that we give them a verbal reminder. This is simply telling them what they did wrong and how to do it right. Okay, you may do this a lot in a program because kids forget things and kids sometimes are don't understand things or whatever. So you may have to remind them several times. After that reminder continues on in one certain area. So you say, hey, don't forget, don't do this, and then you have to tell them again. It turns into a verbal warning. This is warning them of the discipline to come. Now, in most SBC programs, this discipline is simply contacting their parents. Camp Tufos might be a little bit different in the fact that their parents aren't there on site. But that discipline we will talk about in camp training specifically. That, again, it's never physical discipline or anything like that. But here in most SBC cases, this will just be contacting their parents. So you would then say, hey, if you continue down this path of disobedience, or if you continue down this path of rebellion, we will contact your parents and they're going to have to come get you. Okay? And then at that point, you need to be in contact with a director. So whether that's me or Brandy, probably one of those two, you need to get in contact with them, me or her, and say, hey, I have this kid, they are being, rebellious, they are being disobedient on purpose, and I've warned them that they're going to have to go see their parents, or the parents are going to have to come get them if they continue down this path. And kind of at that point, the directors will take over, but basically we'll look at this situation and we may have to call their parents in and say, hey, come get your kid. They're disrupting the entire program because of what they're doing, and they'll get sent home that way. Again, for camp, it may be fluctuate just a little bit, change just a little bit, but that is the basic protocol for discipline. Remember, it's never physical. And as a volunteer, you're never going to be dishing out any kind of discipline. You're always going to be getting a director involved in that, and then the director will be in contact with their parents. So you never contact the parents about any discipline issue. That's always the director's job to contact parents. So just remember those things about discipline. Hopefully none of you have to do any of that. Hopefully our campers are just perfect and our minors are just perfect whenever they're in programs, but sometimes they're not. So we got to be aware of that, make sure we understand it. The final thing I want you guys to understand is contacting a camper. The protocol for contacting a camper post-camp, post-program, outside of programming. I want you guys to understand this so that you guys don't go against our policies and procedures at Stillwater Bible Church. The first one is phone or texting. No calling or texting campers individually without parents' permission. Now, here's the only exception to that rule, is that you may individually respond to a text, but only a response to a minor. That's it. Okay, so if someone texts you and say, what time's youth group, you can reply 5 p.m. That's it. That's the only way you can respond. Other than that, you must get the camper's parents' permission or the minor's parents' permission to do that. Even in a reply, we prefer that you do a group text. So just add a couple people, add me on there, Brandy on there, add somebody on there to where it's very visible and seen. Writing letters. If you want to write a minor a letter, here's the protocol for that. You must plainly address it to the camper, sent to their home address, and it must plainly have your name as well as your return address on it. Plainly sent so the parents can read it, the parents can get it at their parents' home address. Media, we discourage all media use with campers, but we do allow it with the consent of parents if it is not private. So if it is not private and you have the parents' consent, you can do that. We discourage it all, though. We do not allow any private media interaction between camper and adult. Zero private media interaction between any adult and minor. And so that is in our policies and procedure. Home visitation, you must contact the parents first. You must have their consent and permission if you are going to be visiting their home, and the parents must be home. Counseling outside of camp must be done with the parents' consent, and you must make camp directors and or staff or SBC directors aware of this before you do it. Okay, before you counsel anybody outside of camp. We also prefer that be done through us here at Stillwater Bible. If not, we highly encourage it to be done at a public place. So whether that's here or whether that's at a coffee shop or something. And we also highly recommend that the parents drop off the kid if they cannot drive, or the parents come with the child if they cannot drive and stay there. That is our policy and procedure as far as contacting a camper or a minor outside of the SBC programming. Okay? I hope you understand all these things, and I hope that you understand that these things help make a safe environment for the kids that are here and the minors that are here at Stillwater Bible and Stillwater Bible programming. Just to go over what we've just talked about, remember the code of conduct. Remember that you need to understand it and know it so that you can see and be on the lookout for things that go against our code of conduct. So make sure you understand the code of conduct. Understand what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Make sure you understand the 3 R's. Recognize, resist, report. Make sure you understand those, and you can say, hey, here's what those are. Here's what they mean. I need to recognize what goes against the code of conduct. I need to resist or make sure my minors are resisting anything that goes against the code of conduct, and I need to report it immediately. Make sure you understand what your job is as a volunteer or staff member to report. Report anything. Remember, when in doubt, report. Report to me, report to Brandy, Blake, or report to the 1-800 number as well. Any of those things are great. All of the above of those things are great. Make sure you also understand the 360 system that we have in place here at Stillwater Bible. A blanket of monitorization is needed, and this who, where, and what does that. Be on the lookout for anybody that's doing anything outside of the code of conduct with these 3 reads. Who are they? What are they doing? Where are they at? Make sure you read those 3 things. Who are they? Where are they at? What are they doing? Read those 3 things with everybody. And then make sure you understand the protocol and discipline, and that it is never physical. It is never physical. And make sure that you always get a director involved if you're ever contacting parents about a child misbehaving. Also, we want you to be aware and remember about contacting a minor or a camper outside of Stillwater Bible Camp 2 FOSS programming. Make sure you understand what you are allowed and not allowed to do according to our policies and procedures. Thank you so much for watching this video and understanding these things for me. I hope that you have a great time volunteering or being a staff member here at Stillwater Bible, and we hope that it's a safe and fun time. Thank you so much.